Hello and welcome to the show. I am Joe Tophat. Apple TV Plus has a pretty good track record of Peanuts animated projects. Both the Snoopy Show and Snoopy in Space have been worthy additions to the Peanuts library. Now they've released the very first Peanuts special in 10 years for Auld Syne. Is this just as good as the other specials? Let's find out. Once again, I find myself addressing the title of an Apple TV Plus Peanuts cartoon. Typically, Charlie Brown or Snoopy's name is in the title, or Peanuts, as in the case of the Peanuts movie. Although Peanuts Wiki says this special is called Snoopy Presents for Auld Syne, officially it's simply entitled for Auld Syne, making it the first Peanuts cartoon to have neither Charlie Brown, Snoopy, or even Peanuts in the title. I know some of you don't care about the title and just want me to talk about the special itself. I admit that it's a small detail. It's just that, being a Peanuts fan, I'm used to these specials having Charlie Brown or Snoopy's name in the title. Now to the part you've all been waiting for, the special itself. It starts off with the characters enjoying the snow. Forgotten Peanuts character Tapioca Pudding makes her animated debut in this special. This special earns some points from me just for that alone. We then see Lucy decorating for Christmas. She is happy for Grandma would be spending Christmas with them. Linus is dreading Grandma's visit, for she's always trying to get Linus to give up his blanket. Grandma really needs to mind her own business. Meanwhile, Charlie Brown is trying to watch Citizen Kane. He hadn't been able to complete any of his New Year's resolutions. One of them is to view a great work of art. Since he's never seen Citizen Kane before, and it's considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest movie ever made, that's why he's watching it. Sally thinks the movie looks boring. I've seen Citizen Kane. I agree with Sally. It's boring. Charlie Brown is unable to watch it, for Snoopy's siblings come over, and Sally is too lazy to answer the door. She even reveals who Rosebud was. I won't say who or what Rosebud was, for those of you who haven't seen the movie. This means that Charlie Brown failed to complete another resolution. Feeling depressed, Charlie Brown goes to Lucy for advice. For a change, she actually gives pretty good advice. She tells him to adjust his goals so that there's something he could realistically achieve. For instance, instead of building the world's tallest snowman, just build a snowman. Lucy refers to this as sensible mediocrity, but I tend to think of it as being realistic. It's easy to have ambitious goals. It's hard to achieve them. When you set reasonable goals and achieve them, you can move on to bigger things. Maybe someday, Charlie Brown will build the world's tallest snowman. Another side plot involves Spike trying to get a family photo with his siblings. Yet something always comes to mess it up. I really love this side plot, since we don't normally get to see Snoopy's siblings. I also really feel for Spike when his attempts to get a family photo fails. It ties in nicely with Lucy and Charlie Brown's plot of things not going their way. Back to the main plot. Christmas has arrived, but Linus and Lucy's grandma was unable to show up. Lucy takes it pretty hard, feeling that somehow she was the reason Grandma didn't show up. Lucy even starts to wonder if anyone really loves her. Lucy, it's really hard for anyone to love you when you're mean to them. It's interesting that the writers chose to make Lucy the center focus rather than Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown is a way more sympathetic character than Lucy ever was. She pulls away the football all the time. Having said that, I do understand Lucy's disappointment in her grandma not coming over for Christmas. She had been planning it all month, but at the last second, Grandma cancels. The special never gives a reason why she canceled. I'm just going to assume she couldn't get a flight. Given the times we live in, I think a lot of people can relate to what Lucy is going through. Anyway, Lucy decides to throw a big New Year's party to make up for Christmas. She enlists Linus, Charlie Brown, and others to help her put it together. She calls it Lucy's Gala, a New Year's Eve celebration of elegant perfection. A run-on gag is whenever Lucy says the name of the party, someone replies, "That's a mouthful." It's actually a pretty funny gag. I laughed every time they said it, because it really is a mouthful. Yeah, I have a childish sense of humor. As you can probably guess from the name of the party, Lucy wants it to be an elegant affair, meaning everyone is expected to dress up and act dignified. Lucy rents out an old abandoned ballroom, using the nickels she earned from Charlie Brown for her party. She's really making a fortune off him, isn't she? Lucy wants Linus to sing Auld Lang Syne at the party, only she wants him to sing a rewritten version that tells how awesome Lucy's party is. Yeah, Lucy's party is mostly about stoking her own ego. She also wants to have dance music and flashy costumes. Linus tries to explain what the song is all about, but Lucy won't listen. He isn't thrilled about the changes Lucy is making to the song, but he's willing to help out his sister. Linus is a good brother. The big day arrives. Many people show up. Most of them could be the subject of a Forgotten Peanuts character video. Things are looking up for Lucy. The problem starts when Lucy uses it to show how awesome she is, rather than allowing the guests to enjoy themselves. She also stresses how the party is meant to be elegant, but her guests don't find that interesting. I love this scene where Lucy complains about the food Pigpen, tapioca pudding, and Franklin brought. It was cute that tapioca pudding brought tapioca pudding. Snoopy and his siblings were to perform the music. Just before they arrive, they accidentally broke Spike's camera. Spike is so angry about it, he decides to go home. The others feel so bad about it that when they performed at Lucy's party, they played pretty depressing music. Lucy is worried that the party isn't going well, thinking that it means that the others don't love her. Linus tries to tell her to lower her expectations and not to have so many rules. Yet again, Lucy won't listen. She forces Linus to dress up like Elton John. I love Linus's comment that he wouldn't have to be dealing with this if Grandma had showed up for Christmas. He knows who's to blame for this. After a mishap on stage, Lucy scolds Linus for ruining her party. Having enough of her crap, Linus tells her off and walks away. The guests soon follow. It was pretty nice to see Linus stand up to Lucy. Heck, it's nice to see anybody stand up to her. The party is an utter disaster. Charlie Brown has a conversation with Linus about the party. From Linus, he learns the reason why Lucy threw the party was to prove that she is loved. Charlie Brown remarks that she is loved. Are we talking about the same Lucy? Lucy is the kind of character everyone loves to hate. She's crabby and is always doing mean things to Charlie Brown. Look, I know Lucy has done nice things. She did get candy for Linus while trick-or-treating. Lucy was also a lot more mellow during the later years of the strip. Having said that, I never saw Lucy as anyone we're supposed to love, even in the strip's later years. I guess you can argue that this special is meant to show there's more to Lucy than being mean. That's fair. I love characters with some nuance. Schultz did show there was more to Lucy. With that said, it's pretty weird to me that Charlie Brown, of all people, would say she's loved. I'd figure Linus would be the one to say that. Anyway, it's here that Linus shares the meaning of Auld Lang Syne. Basically, it means we shouldn't forget our friends or the good times we had. The scene is kind of similar to a Charlie Brown Christmas, where Linus explains the meaning of Christmas. Linus comforts Lucy and assures her that she is loved, and even states he loves her. Lucy replies that he has to love her since he's her brother. Linus counters that by saying it isn't true. Really love how the special brings that up. People often say because you're related to somebody, it means you're required to love them. That's a lie. I know plenty of people who hate their relatives. That's not always a bad thing, because some relatives are horrible people. The fact is, Linus isn't required to love his sister, but he does anyway. That actually is a pretty sweet moment. To wrap things up, everyone comes to have a do-over for the countdown. They have a good time. Snoopy and his siblings apologize to Spike, and he gets his family photo. And Lucy helps Charlie Brown achieve a New Year's resolution, being a good friend. For Auld Lang Syne is a pretty good special. However, it isn't as good as the ones Schultz made. It has some great animation, perhaps the best of any of the specials, though I admit I prefer the older style. The story is pretty good. I do understand how Lucy must have felt, but I think the special misunderstands her character. I also love seeing Snoopy with his siblings. The special could get a little too sweet at times, but it does show Lucy is using the party for her own ego. I did a poll on Reddit to see which New Year's special fans prefer. The results were that most prefer Happy New Year Charlie Brown. I do think Happy New Year Charlie Brown is the better special, since it has more of what Peanuts fans want. Having said that, for Auld Lang Syne is still worth checking out. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See ya later.